Tonight, force, not diplomacy, is setting the tone in the Middle East as Iran pounds strategic energy sites deep inside occupied territories. The Zionist entity strikes back, targeting top Revolutionary Guard leaders and even hitting the Iranian state broadcaster's headquarters. Tehran is pointing the finger at Washington, accusing the US of complicity and declaring all supporters of the aggression as hostile actors. In the face of this dangerous escalation, Algeria's voice rings clear, condemning the aggression and calling on the UN Security Council to fulfill its duty. A position echoed by China, Russia, and growing chorus of nations urging the escalation, while G7 leaders warn against regional collapse. So tonight we ask, is the region heading toward a full-blown war, or is there still room for diplomacy to step in? Welcome to our special coverage for tonight. But before we bring in our guest and dive into the questions, here is the report by Yassine Rikti.
The conflict between Iran and the Zionist entity intensified sharply on Monday as Israeli airstrikes hit several sites in Tehran, including the headquarters of Iran's state broadcaster. The attack damaged the live broadcast studio and killed several media workers. First news agencies said the strike was limited but aimed at spreading fear. Outside the building, a fire started due to the airstrike. Most channels resumed broadcasting except the main news outlet. While Iran responded with a wave of missile attacks targeting Zionist military and intelligence facilities in Haifa and the Tel Aviv area, sirens sounded across northern Israel as Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps declared the strikes highly accurate and destructive. A missile hit the Weizmann Institute in Jaffa, a key Israeli nuclear research center, causing visible fires.
We were engaged in negotiations. In the Middle East of diplomatic process, we were confronted with an act of aggression by the Zionist regime. As I have previously stated, we cannot imagine that such an action by the Zionist regime could have taken place without coordination, cooperation, and support from the United States. This has in fact stripped the diplomatic process and negotiations of their meaning and substance.
Civilian casualties have mounted on both sides. Iran's health ministry reported 224 dead and over 1,200 injured in 3 days of Zionist strikes, including women and children. Hospital in Tehran and residential areas in Jamaran were among the targets. Meanwhile, 24 Israelis have been killed in Iranian strikes since Friday, with fatalities reported in Haifa, Petah Tikva, Bnei Brak and Bat Yam. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps also confirmed the deaths of 3 top intelligence commanders, including Mohammad Kazemi, in a Zionist air raid. In total, Iran says it has lost 20 senior officers and 14 nuclear scientists. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian condemned the attacks and reaffirmed Iran's right to enrich uranium, stating the country does not seek nuclear weapons, while accusing the US of enabling Israeli aggression and called for international intervention.
We do not seek to possess nuclear weapons, and this is a firm belief of ours. We were not the ones who left the negotiations, and what we are demanding is our legal right. And no one has the right to deprive us of the right to benefit from nuclear energy and research that serves the interests of our people. The United States is practicing bullying and violating international law by allowing Israel to attack us.
As strikes continue and regional tensions rise, both nations show no sign of backing down, raising fears of a wider war in the Middle East region.
All right, let's bring in our guest now. Joining us tonight is Dr. Abdenour Toumi, geopolitical analyst specialized in MENA regions and Maghreb affairs from Paris. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to be with us.
Thank you for having me on the show, and my special greetings to our dear brothers, your distinguished guest, Mr. Sassi and Professor Sahi.
You have done the introduction for me already. So joining us from California, USA is Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Associate Dean, Professor of International Studies. Hello there, Dr. Hamoud.
Hi, Karim. Thanks for having us. And thank you to me and Saz. A pleasure being with you both.
Thank you indeed. And of course, from New York is Mohammed Chris Sassi, financial and geopolitical commentator. Hello there, sir.
I return the compliment to my distinguished brother, Dr. Salhi, and to me as well as you, because you never say thanks to you, Karim, and
Thank
also
you
you team behind you, or the technical team behind you, just great thing. And again, thank you again for the invite, and it's always a pleasure to share with my two colleagues.
Our pleasure. All right, let's dive in. Dr. Hamoud Salhi, we have seen the latest updates and the report that we have just watched together. What's the message or the strategic message that we can get here behind Iran targeting these sensitive sites like the Weizmann Institute and the Zionist command centers? I mean, is this psychological warfare or maybe something tactical escalation, let's say?
It's all of that. And what's interesting is what's happening in the background, where the media is reporting how the Israelis, and particularly the Israeli lobby, is preparing a case for the United States to intervene, meaning that there is this dominant view or this opinion that is emerging, and you see it in today's the New York Times, where they are talking about creating that what's happening, what Israel is doing, is creating conditions for the United States to intervene at minimum risk. So that's on the one side. What we're seeing is that the Iranians are proving to be a very, very difficult country to handle, and they are showing that they have a strategic military strength that is sort of standing shoulder to shoulder with the Israelis, and more than anything else, they appear to be having the upper hand. Now, the message from the Israelis, when we see the destructions of buildings, cities, all of that, it is also coupled with giving human side to it. The American media, the British media as well, interviews make a point to interview those who are affected to give it a human side, but it's also to build a case against and for, again, let me stress this again, for getting what the Israelis have wanted all along, to get the United States to intervene. To answer directly to your question, Karim, yes, we're seeing that we're seeing the Iranians taking the upper hand. Matching shoulder by shoulder what's happening, but on the background you have also this huge United States position, especially with the move, or with President Trump declaring today that he's moving Nimitz to the Gulf region.
And Dr. Abdenour, to me, in light of what Dr. Hamoud Salhi said, I can add this statement. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims innovative, advanced methods were used in this battle. Is this conflict reshaping the battlefield with a new generation of, let's say, precision missile and drone tech, let's say?
It is indeed, and we are facing a new dynamic in this military campaign, and every day we are facing a new dynamic. So it is, in fact, a totally new warfare that, in modern history. And these two rivals are actually fighting shoulder to shoulder, and they are, especially the Iranians, and because they felt like, especially in the first night when they were terribly hit, and they come up quickly, and they showed their force and their strength, and they struck quickly. So, and this is what made the equation of power actually, I mean, very, very complex for the analysts and especially for the military experts to analyze and to comment on.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Mohammed Krissasi, we have seen the Arab broadcasting or the Iran broadcasting complex being hit, yet Iran resumed broadcast quickly. What do we get from this? I mean, why would the Zionist entity attack a broadcast complex? Although this is like a crime against international law. I mean, civilian complexes should not have been hit, especially something that carries a message that delivers the truth to people. And we see Iran, coming quickly or recovering quickly and resuming the broadcast. How does this symbolize the resilience?
To answer the first part of your question, nothing is surprising with such policy from Israel and the Zionist entity. They did it in Beirut, they did it in Syria, they did it also with when they're attacking Gaza. They all have the excuses that the media, they are the mouth of the propaganda of Iran, and to help all their, as they said, the war by proxy with the Yemen, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc. But it doesn't work anymore. And here, this is where we see that after 4 days, Israel didn't reach the destruction of Iran capacity. And in order to make them shut up, they tried to destruct the building where all the journalists, not only the Iranian, but of the world, they come and they can tell the truth about what's going on. But they failed to destroy Iran. And also now the world see that the exit strategy for Netanyahu, what is it? He knows that, he failed after 4 days. He didn't reach the destruction of Iran capacity. In the contrary, Iran is getting the upper hand. And Israel never faced such of destruction within their own country. And this is why also they cannot destruct their own news media. What they do, they shut off all the media for the foreigner, and they cannot report from Israel when they see the destruction like the site, etc., etc. Then again, they want to do the censure within Israel and also in Iran by destructing the building where the news were emitting. But now, where are we going to go? I don't know if I can continue what my dear friend Dr. Sarhi was saying, but they don't have an exit strategy, as Dr. Sarhi said. The exit strategy, Netanyahu doesn't have choice. He knows now, he finds after 4 days that he cannot stop Iran. This is not South Lebanon, this is not Syria, this is not Gaza, this is Iran. 90 million people, the third producer, this is an economical power. On the top of it, they have the Strait of Hormuz. They are going to maybe to play or not on it. We can talk about that when we get to the economical problem. But they have, just to finish, they have to go to Trump and say, you have to help me. You have to do it. But now Trump doesn't want to do it because Trump knows, number one, it cost him 69 billion since the beginning of the October 7 of my numbers are more or less correct, I guess. And Trump is seeing that, the promises of a very easy walk to the park, like they did in Gaza, like they did in South Africa, is not going to happen. Iran have more than 7 missiles in their stockpile. And they show that each and every time they send it is by 100, 200. Why? Because the dome cannot sustain it. And they understand it. Don't forget that Iraq have 7 years of war, 8 years of war with all this area. They know what they are doing. And they were expecting what Netanyahu won? Because Netanyahu was talking about it since 1996 for 20 years. Do you think that the Iranians were sitting down and waiting? Yes, he killed some of the experts, some of the scientific, but you kill.
Very interesting. I mean, let me just stop you right there, because you mentioned a very interesting key point here of a killing over 20 senior commanders and 14 nuclear scientists here. So, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, how deep is the Zionist penetration into Iran's intelligence and military circles, according to you? I mean, what does it say about Iran's internal, perhaps, vulnerabilities?
It's an excellent question, and I wish I have the correct answer, except guessing the best as we can. It's certainly, from what we have seen, Iran has a huge problem, which is this infiltration of Israelis inside its security system, and more than anything else, the killing of nuclear scientists and people of knowledge that they needed somehow and should have protected. And we don't know the details. How sophisticated is the Israeli, how deep is the Israeli intelligence into Iran? But at the same time, we also should not lose sight of the fact that despite all this killing, despite what we've seen of destructions after destruction, killing leaders after leaders and scientists, the Iranians have proven that they have a system in place that whoever is next will handle the situation as good as if it were the other. So from that perspective, you could also see that the Iranians are rising to the moment. But there is a point underneath behind all of this, Karim. We are also, or Israel is also building a narrative. And we don't know how accurate is this information, but the narrative is to lay the foundation that what the Israelis are doing, despite all the destruction they are doing, the violation of this Iran as a sovereign state, they are after nuclear scientists. They are after, at one point we were told, changing the regime, and this is all built in the psyche of the Western person and the Western media to justify Israeli actions and undermine Iran's legitimacy as a sovereign state whose sovereignty was violated. Nobody is questioning whether the Israeli acts, by that I mean the Western media, are in violation of international law. So the trick here is that with the preparing a narrative to justify what I said earlier, laying the ground for, number one, justify any veto at the United Nations Security Council, which will be led by the United States, and also preparing the foundation. And this is very revealing today how the New York Times is preparing as well this foundation, where it's talking about the United States, Israel is preparing the foundation for making the move, the United States, when it comes in, as easy as possible. And that's by targeting, again, the Israelis talks about targeting military sites. Well, in fact, it's civilians. We have over 240 civilians Iranian killed and almost a score of people injured. So there is a narrative there that worries me, or that sort of that we have to understand. But again, to go back to your question, certainly from the face of it, the Iranians should have done better in terms of protecting their scientists, making sure that they are secure, and to be sort of also ensuring that their security intelligence is not sort of attacked. But what's very interesting is that Netanyahu brought the Iranian the idea of calling for the Iranian people to raise and to fight and all of that. In the same segment on one of the stations, American stations, they, or the British station as well, they showed the son of the Shah. And with Netanyahu, and presented him as an alternative, and you hear the Shah's son, who is sort of leading this effort to regime change, as presenting this as an opportunity for the Iranian people to change the regime, and as if Israel is doing their a favor. So the narrative, the ideology part of it also fits within, has also another thing to consider.
Absolutely. And Dr. Abdenour Toumi, Iran calls all pro-Israel states partners in crime. If the U.S. continues to support Israel, could it legally or diplomatically be seen as complicit under international law? And with the accusations against the U.S. flying and American military aid continuing, could this push Tehran to target U.S. regional bases? Or is this still unlikely?
Actually, following the all these dynamics that has been fallen in light of these last 4 days. So this scenario, it is possible and actually plausible and possible. And speaking about the exit strategy, so the Prime Minister of Zionist states, actually he is looking for an exit tragedy. And this is the tragedy that he is actually aiming for and has been advocating for more than 15 years, meaning by that to drag the Americans to clash with the Iranians. And this is his main objective. So now, as far as the Americans' role in this conflict, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, they are actually a part of it. I mean, even though they try to, position themselves as indirectly are involved, but they are directly involved. And when you see the latest statements of President Donald Trump, I mean, asking the Iranians, I mean, to evacuate the city of Tehran. I mean, this is remind us the same actually message that was sent or called for the Palestinians in Gaza from the Zionist army. I mean, where they go? I mean, they go to the moon. But the good side from this, the Iranians are not going anywhere. And to the contrary, even though, I mean, there are like solid opposition to the Iranian authorities, and because, I mean, which is obvious, I mean, they have been in power for more than 45 years, and there is kind of this model of governance style fatigue. But what is important here is there is this rally around the flag effect, in which sent a strong message to the son of the Shah, I mean, who is actually the mouthpiece and to the West, particularly to the Americans. And when we speak about the West, I mean, indeed, I mean the Zionists, and who are actually presenting him as an alternative to the fall of the current regime in Tehran. And this is what, again, I mean, brings us to the exit strategy, to the exit tragedy that the Prime Minister of Zionist state has been aiming for decades now.
Mm-hmm. And Mohammed Sassi, the deliberate targeting of the Hakim Children's Hospital and residential areas, what does this say about the erosion of international humanitarian law in modern conflict? Are we witnessing a collapse of global norms, maybe even a collapse of all morality, humanity, let's say?
When you ask about morality, my dear Karim, regarding coming from Israel, I just would like to remind our honorable audience that Israel are killing, or did kill, more than 60,000 people in Gaza. Israel are bombarding Gaza every single day. At the moment where I'm talking to you, even today, 60 kids were killed because they were going to get some quote-unquote medicine, but when they come close to the soldiers, they shoot at them and they say we were in danger. How can we ask me about the morality change? Nothing changed. It's the same. Nothing changed, absolutely nothing. Now, they all claim again and again self-defense. Here we are not in self-defense. They are attacking a country, a sovereign country that never, ever attacked them. So this is where, and Dr. Toumi and Dr. Sahir, they were talking about exit strategy. We're not talking about morality here. He doesn't have any exit strategy. He's back against the war in his own country. I was reading one of the newspapers with the journalist Gedeon Levy. He was talking about this war. First, Gedeon Levy did condemn the war crime in Gaza, and this is the Haaretz newspaper. And then yesterday, it was an article about him. He was saying, but why we are like Netanyahu is trumpeting the war. He's, how did he say that? I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, the trumpet of victory are here. We are going to win. We are going to destruct Iran. We are not going to let him have the nuclear power. He didn't do nothing for 4 days. Now, who is winning? Number one, on the term of, to answer a question, the morality, yes, is some kind of morality. Look at the diplomatic isolation. The US, yes, they are helping him. They are helping him. But they don't want to be involved. He's trying to drag them in, and he's not going to succeed. I heard my colleague, but I don't think they will. Trump and is a resistance within the Democratic Party, within the military, how do you call it, that État-Major American. They don't want to go to the Middle East again. They have a sour experience in Afghanistan. They have a sour experience in Iraq. They don't want that again. It's very easy to get in the Middle East, but it's very difficult to get out of it, and it costs a lot of money. That's number one. Number two is how do you call it, Netanyahu. Forget about the diplomacy because, he wants to absolutely since 1986 claiming that Iran is going to have nuclear power and is going to be the death penalty for the state of Israel, which is absolutely false. As I said before, they never attack him. And then, of course, the miscalculation of Netanyahu is also with Europe. Europe is not supporting. Most of the Europeans, I should say, is not supporting Netanyahu. They said, no, you are the aggressor. It's not self-defense. It's self-aggression. And then you have the G7. If I can say a word about the G7. I don't know if you did follow the G7, but finally they come to an accord. But when I look at the G7, who are the G7? You have the two leaders that they make the declaration, joint declaration, Mr. Trump and the British First Minister. Who are they? White supremacists, ex-colonialist, imperialist, and they want to impose again their will regarding Iran. I cannot not stop thinking about, I'm sorry, I'm going to be off the rail a little bit, the Treaty of Balfour in 1917. What was it? Again, the British. They know that the Ottoman Empire is going to be destroyed, so they were preparing what they prepared, le foyer national juif. This is all the problem that you have today in the Middle East come from that Treaty of Balfour to give a national foyer juif. Wow. And if I may finish on this line of thought, why again? It was more than 100 years ago, and we are back again today. One thing, we are Muslim. And they don't accept it. You like it or not, this is the issue. This is a new war with the religious matter that you are not going, they don't want to accept it. It's as simple, if you take, the Israel when they attacked the USS Liberty in 1967. They killed, I think, something like 170 Marines on the boat. What did they do? Nothing. Why? Because it was Israel, it was 1967, it was the war, 6-day war. Exactly like now. Israeli attacking Iran, They are destructing Iran, they try to destruct Iran, but now what happened is they stand up and they find out that it's not going to be that easy. And of course, you have the diplomatic resolution, you have going to have the economical ripples. Because is the Middle East, is the oil, the Chinese, you have this trilogy now, Russia, China, and
I will get back to that, Mr. Mohammed Sassi. Let me just remind our viewers about the latest, and then we can get back to this particular point. So, Iran's foreign ministry is pointing the finger at Washington, accusing the US of coordinating with the Zionist entity and providing military support for strikes on Iranian territory. Spokesman Ismail Baghei told reporters Monday that the US is complicit in what he called crimes against Iran, noting the latest attacks came amid ongoing negotiations, casting further doubt over the diplomatic process.
We will certainly make the appropriate decision in light of recent developments. We are in close coordination with the Parliament, and naturally, any decisions made by the Parliament, according to the law, are binding for the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The proposals you mentioned are currently being drafted, and we will definitely ensure the necessary coordination with the esteemed Parliament during the drafting process.
And on the same occasion, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghei warned that any country backing or justifying the Zionist entity's aggression would be seen as hostile and complicit in what he described as crimes against Iran.
This is an act of aggression, not a word more, not a word less. Military act of aggression should not be justified in any way. This action by the Zionist regime is nothing but an act of aggression.
And at the diplomatic level, Iran defended its strikes on Israel as proportionate self-defense, citing Article 51 of the UN Charter. In a letter to the Security Council, Iran's UN ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani warned that countries aiding Israeli attacks would bear legal consequences, calling out the US directly for supplying weapons and intelligence. Meanwhile, Israel's UN envoy accused Tehran of firing over 1,000 missiles at civilians, vowing to continue operations aimed at crippling Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities.
Just hours ago, Israeli regime deliberately targeted the office of Iran's news agency during a live broadcast. This appalling attack constitutes a blatant war crime and a direct assault on press freedom. The Israeli regime has once again demonstrated that it is the foremost enemy of truth. It holds the disgraceful record of being the world's leading perpetrator of violence against journalists and media professionals. In response to this barbaric attack and aggression, Iran exercised its inherent right to self-defense in line with Article 51 of Charter. Our response was defensive, targeted, and proportionate.
Back to you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, but perhaps I'm going to be long on formulating this question because it got some kind of three questions in one. So, Iran accuses Washington of coordinating the Zionist entity amid ongoing negotiations. So, is this the final collapse of diplomacy, let's say, between Tehran and Washington? Has the window for de-escalation officially closed? I mean, if the United States is seen as complicit in the Israeli strikes, does this shift the nature of the conflict from a regional clash, let's say, to a US-Iran confrontation by proxy or even directly, let's say?
You're right. There is a lot of there to unload. But let's take it one step by one step. The first one is in terms of negotiation. If we just follow what happened just in the last 24 hours, you could have the answer there. In the last 24 hours, we heard news from the Israelis saying that the American embassy in Tel Aviv was almost hit, or one of the buildings that were hit was the American embassy. Following that news, we had Nimitz, who was in Southeast Asia, being sort of directed to come to the Middle East. where we had a carrier there. So now you have two carriers in the region. One of the function or responsibilities of Nimitz, along with other carriers, is having a defense system, ballistic system that is viewed as directly to counter the Iranian missiles that have had success at reaching Israel. So that's number one. Add to that you have already in the Gulf region 40 to 50,000 American troops, all guarding or being in what you call 9 military bases built throughout that region. So you have a huge military presence, and then you add a Nimitz to that equation. What it means is that you're either trying to use these military positions as a way to gain leverage against the in the negotiation. So you believe there are some negotiation, and the United States is trying to give some kind of leverage to itself, so it forces Iran to negotiate and sit at the table. The second point related to that is the Iranians have responded to what the Americans are saying. Basically to President Donald Trump, who also uses threatening terms. He's saying to the Iranians, look, I give you 60 days, or 61 days, I allowed Israel to do what they do. Then he comes back and say, this is just in the last 24 hours, if Iran continues to do this, then it's World War III. I mean, all these are indication that the United States is not interested in negotiation or bringing Iran to negotiate. Rather, what they want Iran to sit down and sign on the dotted sign. So that's one. Connected to that, the second question about maybe the region, the regional balance of power. I think what we're seeing is that the United States has been very, very clever, along with Israel, to contain this war. What the Israelis are doing are building a case, as I said earlier, by attacking military facilities, or they claim, by attacking nuclear areas, facilities. And what they are building a case, whether they are successful or not, but in the eye of the public relations, they're building a case to tell the United States, look, you just have one function here to do, which is help us destroy the nuclear facilities. And this connects very well. It's as if you bookend it, you're writing an essay or something, you bookend it with when we started this. Remember, Karim, we started with the idea that Israel is saying, we're doing this as a preemptive attack. Preempting what? I mean, has the Iranians attacked the Israelis? Have they done anything that would justify the Israel to take its action? So what we're seeing from my reading here is that we are looking at ways or creating foundation for the United States to come and intervene, with the idea that its mission will be specifically to target these nuclear facilities, or we think that the nuclear facilities, and after the Israelis have sort of laid the foundation by what you call destroying the Iranian military capabilities. The challenge here, or the misread and the miscalculation of the Israelis, is that Israel is continuing to treat Iran as if they are dealing with another group that they have fought in the past, as if they are dealing with Hezbollah, as they are dealing with the Palestinian resistance or the Houthis, when in fact we're talking about a nation state. And that is a difference. So when the Israelis tells today, and again, President Donald Trump says this too, when they tell to the Iranian in Tehran to evacuate, to leave their homes, we're talking about the 7 million people in Tehran that we're telling them to leave. And again, these are not Gaza. Where,
and since you mentioned that, Dr. Hamoud Saleh, I would like to have a listen to what U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday, urging everyone to immediately evacuate Tehran. And that was in a post on Truth Social. U.S. President reiterated that Iran should have signed a nuclear deal with the United States, as they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Israel has nuclear weapons. In mid-70s, when the issue of nuclear or permanent nuclear proliferation, banning the nuclear proliferation, where a state signed onto it, Madeleine Albright responded to Egypt at the time when Egypt refused to sign the NPT, or put it a condition that in order for them to sign the NPT, the permanent treaty, Israel has to sign it. And Madeleine Albright at the time responded by saying, well, Israel is different. It's a democracy. I mean, how is that common sense? I mean, this is a democracy that, as Mr. Sassi correctly pointed out, Israel is violating every means of international law morality. They are accused of genocide by the highest court in the world, the International Criminal Court. And yet, we believe Israel will be responsible holding nuclear weapons. So that's what doesn't make sense. So from that perspective...
Another interesting point, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Let me just bring Dr. Mohammed Sassi, since you mentioned him. So, Mohammed Sassi, with the talk of, let's say, Iran leaving the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, I mean, are we going to see Tehran signaling a return to an open nuclear track, or maybe using this as a leverage to deter further strikes? I mean, how serious is this threat of Iran withdrawing from the NPT? I mean, would this, let's say, move isolate Iran even further, or force the West to reconsider its pressure tactics?
Well, I just have a small answer, a very short answer, an answer that is, I don't believe in the fairy tales. All what you are talking here, when I talk about Trump, this is tales. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't have any clue about the foreign policy. Today he's going to say one thing like, I will stop the war in the 24-hour Ukraine. During the declaration with the Canadian First Minister, he said, oh, if I was a president, this war will not happen. I cannot listen to this guy anymore. This is waste of time. This is really waste of time. Even to measure him, I will not do that, because I know that whatever comes from his mouth is a lie. And now he associates himself with Netanyahu. Netanyahu is someone since 1996, I say it and I repeat it again, that he was going to attack Iran. He did it. The only problem that is not a walk in the park, as Mr. Sarhi said, Dr. Sarhi said just before, they didn't expect what happened to them. They didn't have a clue that Iran was going to do what they did. And they have a red flag already the first time last March when they sent the 300 missiles, just close to the defense ministry, just close to the Mossad building, etc., etc. It's just to tell them, we can do it and we are going to do it. Now it's happening. Trump, what he's saying is, for me, I'm sorry to say that, this is all brushing the hair. This guy is worse than Biden in the sense that at least Biden has some knowledge of foreign policy. This is only talking, breathing air, and he doesn't want to listen to everybody except to this phantasmagoric brain. That's number one. Number two, Iran war strategy. We talk about Israel, we talk about the power of Israel, we talk about that Iran was not ready for the espionage, etc. Yes, it's true. You cannot stop that. They are very strong, and of course, they use all the matahari that they can find in Iran. It's fine. But still, Iran war strategy is built for endurance, and this is what they don't understand. Iran strategy, you have to go back to history. Iran-Iraq war was from 1990 to 1988, and they were against America. They were against the very powerful financier of the world, which is Saudi Arabia and the GCC, and they survived it. And they survived it, and they are here again today. And also, they have now the missile, that the dome, the famous dome of Israel, the impenetrable dome, it looks like a Swiss cheese. It goes, and you see the damage that is done. We don't see it on the TV because Israel doesn't want us to see, but I'm sure that even the military Israeli said to Netanyahu, this is demonstrate what you did. How we are going to handle it now? And the Americans, they don't want to intervene. I have to disagree with what I said before. The Americans, yes, they have the limits They have 9 bases over there. They have the 6th float in Bahrain, so on and so forth. What did they do in Iraq? What did they do in Afghanistan? You can have the most powerful military forces. You are not going to stay. You are not going to endure. I am an Algerian. I fight the colonization of France for 132 years. They were the first military power. We have fusil with the powder, and we have les fourches de nos pauvres paysans. We win the war, not militarily, but with the resilience. We win. And the Iranians are the same, and they continue with the Iranian. They fragilize the strategy of, or the posture of Israel. Now we know that Israel is not this giant that you are thinking. Is not this untouchable of the Middle East. Now, they get, for the first time in their history, which is since 50 years, what they were doing to the others, meaning the poor Yemeni, the poor South Lebanon, Beirut, etc. What they can do. They are going to destruct Iran. They are not going to do it. After 4 days, now they're already trying to find a strategy to cry to the Europeans. They said, no, you did the war. You have to pay for it. Now you have to eat. How do you say it in English? It's too much to bite. How do you say it? It's too much to bite.
Yes. So it seems like the entity a bit more than it can chew. It's way beyond its capacities. Thank you, Mohammed Sassi. Let me just include here Dr. Abdenour Toumi, just to get back on track regarding the NPT here. Dr. Abdenour Toumi, how serious is the threat of Iran withdrawing from the NPT? Would this move isolate Tehran even further or force the West to reconsider its pressure tactics?
It is serious because, I mean, the Iranians, they have been very loyal and legal. And actually, they joined the NPT. And even in the deal of the 2015 with the European, China, Russia, and the Americans, and the Iranians, I mean, gave in too much. But they, again, they were loyal to the norms of the NPT on one hand and to the international law. As a result, President Donald Trump in 2018, in his first term, I mean, he did withdraw from it. And this kind of, I mean, there is this relation between, personally, between the US President, Mr. Donald Trump, and the Iranians. It is conflictual. And also, I mean, this is why now we're talking about negotiations and diplomatic solution, which is, I don't believe so in these days or in the coming months. Because in the end of the day, Donald Trump personally, he does like the war criminal, the Zionist states prime minister wants Iran. They don't want to make a deal with Iran. They want a capitulation. They want Iran to surrender, to come on its knees to the negotiation table and sign. So, and which the Iranians, they will never do it. And don't forget, I mean, speaking about the this relation between the Iranians and the President Donald Trump is, I mean, he's the one who killed Qasem Soleimani in January 2020, just, I mean, 2 weeks before he left office. So all these elements, I mean, doesn't leave the Iranians to, first of all, to trust the Americans, and then to, I mean, answer directly your question, to trust the international law, because they know there is this double standard that does apply to the rest of the world, and zero responsibility for the Zionist states. I mean, who has these states who has been, I mean, violating international laws and international humanitarian law for many occasions, and we don't have, again, to not mention the carnage is taking place in Gaza, adding the Gaza Strip, adding to that the process of annexation in the West Bank and the occupation of Al-Quds Sharif. So all these, and which gives a strong argument for the Iranians to not trust the Americans, also the Europeans. Generally speaking, the West, the hypocrite Westerners, who again, day and night, come and lecture us about democracy and human rights values and freedom of speech and so on. But what we have been watching in the last 18 months in occupied Palestine, and especially, you mentioned in this show about the strike of these colonial states, the Zionists, on state TV, Iranian state TV. It says a lot. It is a war criminal act. But the leaders of these Zionist states don't care about international laws, about the international humanitarian law, and about international community. So this is now when the Iranians they are fighting this, I won't say existential war for the state and the deep state of Iran, but for the current authorities.
Point clear, Dr. Abdunnoor Toumi. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our special coverage for tonight. As the dust of escalation clouds the path to peace, one question remains: is the world willing or even able to stop the slide into a regional war, with force now outpacing diplomacy and global power split between condemnation and complicity? The stakes could not be higher. Thank you so much, dear guests, for your valuable insights. Abdunnoor Toumi, Mohammed Sassi, Hamoud Salhi, and thank you, dear viewers, for keeping it here on our channel. Until next time, take care.